Imagine walking into an afternoon meeting, only to find the entire department deadlocked over whether the term flip chart is offensive. Nobody of Filipino descent has complained. In fact, nobody has complained at all. But a hypothetical offense has triggered a cascade of emails, HR consultations, and a strict mandate to use the replacement term easel pad. If you are like most people, you probably roll your eyes. You tell yourself it is a trivial waste of time. You use easel pad in the next email because you need a job and you want to be professional. The real problem isn't the specific word, it's the habit. When you repeatedly act against your own sense of truth for the sake of institutional peace, you begin to lose respect for the work, then for the system, and eventually for yourself. There is a difference between tasks that are unpleasant and tasks that are corrupting. Waking up at dawn, scrubbing floors, or handling menial labor might exhaust you, but necessary effort builds discipline and character. Corrupting work is entirely different. This is work that requires you to participate in dishonesty, enforce pointless rules, or act against your own internal value structure. Harsh, dictatorial rules are easy to spot because they clearly rely on power. Absurd rules are far more insidious. They disguise that exact same power grab as moral virtue and procedural care. When your job forces you to routinely violate your conscience, you experience moral injury. It does not tire your muscles. It makes you feel a deep, lingering contempt for yourself. Confusing these two types of work is a trap. Enduring necessary hardship makes you resilient. Enduring what you know to be false simply hollows out your inner truth. Institutional corruption rarely arrives via a sudden trapdoor. It operates on a staircase of tiny concessions. First, silence. You notice absurdity but say nothing. Then, performance. You enforce rules to signal virtue. To handle the friction, you justify it as too risky. This is a carefully designed social trap. Bureaucratic purity spirals reward the outward performance of goodness. The conversation is framed so that any logical disagreement automatically makes you look like a wicked, uncaring person. You eventually become what you repeatedly tolerate. Every tiny compromise trains your psyche to accept falsity, slowly dismantling your internal compass. This process of slow accommodation is how ideological systems move from the fringes into the center. When an institution successfully rewards compliance over truth, it builds the foundation for the same kind of silencing used by history's most overbearing regimes. People who have lived under overt, historical oppression often recognize this immediately. They see the procedural control of language and thought long before comfortable people realize what is happening. Human action requires a belief that the effort is worth it. When you are repeatedly forced to spend your energy on stupid, counterproductive tasks, your motivation fragments. You are left profoundly cynical. You surrender your personal agency. You operate as a marionette, your movements dictated entirely by institutional power, completely complicit in your own degradation. The ultimate cost of this procedural compliance is the total erosion of your inner truth detector. By the time a genuinely severe moral crisis arrives, you have lost the capacity to tell right from wrong. When faced with an absurd workplace, most people feel trapped between two bad options: suffer in silent complicity or impulsively quit and ruin their livelihood. There is a strategic alternative. You have to fortify your position. Relying on your conscience without a pragmatic plan is a recipe for martyrdom. Instead of fighting the specific absurd rule directly, engage in a rearguard action. Build alternative credibility. Push back intelligently by mastering the literature and dismantling the broader culture of bad, pseudoscientific ideas in your industry. You cannot effectively say no if you have zero alternatives. Building your competence, expanding your skills, and actively updating your CV physically protect your conscience. Doing what you hate destroys your foundational self. Do not wait until your ability to resist is completely gone. Become strong enough and prepared enough to finally stop participating in what you know is false.